right. Well, Sebas, first of all, happy belated birthday.
Thank you, thank you.
How old did you turn, bro?
23. 23.
What were you doing when you were 23?
Slinging bikes. That was like rib.
Yeah?
Yeah, 26, 3 years ago.
How do you feel turning
I met you when you
23?
were 23 then.
Yeah.
I was like 16.
No.
No.
No, 3 years. Yeah, well, you
That
were
was
20.
7 years.
Yeah, that's
You're
7 years
saying-
ago.
You're saying
I started working at InCircle when I was 16, 17.
No, but 3 years ago I was 23, you were 20. Yeah.
that's 6.
Yeah,
I met you when you were young then.
not too young. I mean, your age.
Yeah, it's your age.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, yeah, bro. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. He said, how does it feel to be 23? It kind of feels more like I'm moving into adulthood, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like a coming of age thing, for sure. I just don't, like that. So much happens in those years, like between like 20 to 23, I feel like, that like a lot of, you gain a lot of experience and you just, you go through life.
What type of experience in those 3 years?
So, I mean, like, just a lot of growing up, like, becoming financially independent, like, obviously getting around, working. A lot of people graduate around that time, too, so they'll go into their careers and stuff like that. But just mainly just, like, those types of things.
Yeah, the financial independence kind of sticks out to me because I would say most people don't get financial independence, like,
Right.
from 20 to 23 because most people are in college. Most people, like you said, are graduating. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm excited to hear what you say in regards to that and how you achieve that and what that means for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Isaac, I don't know where you want to take it from here.
Did you do anything yesterday, bro? For fun? I know I kind of texted you and I was trying to figure out what plans you had.
Well, yesterday was friggin' a wash because of the rain.
Right.
It was like the rainiest, gloomiest day ever.
And then on a Tuesday, bro.
Not ever, because it's been raining a lot, but it's up there.
It was definitely up there. Yeah,
It's raining all day, right?
it was raining all day. Yeah, it was just gloomy. I mean, ideally, I'm gonna plan some stuff for the weekend. What? I don't know yet. We'll see. I already got some stuff in the works with the homies. But I kind of just spent time with my family. Went over to their pad. My mom cut me a cake. Saw my brothers and stuff. So just like family stuff, just like the normal like cake and candles thing. But yeah, because it was Tuesday, it was raining. I was like,
How do you usually feel about birthdays, bro? Do you get like anxious about them? Do you expect people to? Like, do you get upset if no one hits you up?
Are you waiting for like that specific person? You're like, oh, this person has to hit me up. If not, like they fake.
you know what? Some people don't be hitting me up, and I'm like, all right, for sure, like noted. You know how it is. You know how it is. Pero like, yeah, I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. Like in all reality, for me, like birthdays are just whatever. I know some people are like, no, man, like these are the best years of your life. You should cherish them. I get that too. I should be better about it. But I would say I focus a lot on other people's plans, making, plans with other people, seeing them happy, like helping other people out is like my main thing. So I often get pushed aside. But that's fine because it's not, that's just how I am.
Yeah.
So it's not too big of a deal for me, like birthdays. Like it's,
Do you get anxious though? Like just leading up to your birthday?
A little bit, like very small amounts. Yeah, it's like one more year. Like you feel like you're getting older and stuff, and like you want to make plans, and like it comes up so fast, Just like that part of it for sure.
Yeah.
I have met more people that get anxious and a little bit sad about their birthdays than they do get excited about them.
It's just hard to live up to it. Like,
Yeah.
You're expecting this like huge, like every person that, is important to you to hit you up.
Right.
For you to like go wild or, whatever it means for you to have a really good day. And so I feel like many times it's just the expectation is so high, and you know that when you set expectations, most likely it's gonna fail.
Yeah. For example, my birthday, I was just anxious that we went and we had plans, and I just feel like everyone kind of well, you guys were trying to go to the bungalow, and I was like, I'm really just trying to chill. I'm not really feeling it, and yeah, it definitely puts that pressure. But yeah, bro, I mean, 23, shoot, like I feel like you're so young and have a lot of potential, and we'll get into that later in this episode. But I think the people watching will get to see you a lot more because you're a big part of like what we're doing, and we're homies. So I just want them to get to know, and also for us, because I feel like we don't hardly, we rarely have like deep combos. We've had a few and which are really good, but
Yeah.
I think that I know you a little bit better than Max knows you. So I think it's important for like I really want to get to know you, and I know there's so much to uncover. So just like really quickly, like a 5 minute snippet of like who Sebas is and like where you come from, where you were born. Yeah, just like who Sebas is.
Wow, that's crazy. Like I've never been asked that. So I gotta think about this, right? So Sebas, obviously, Sebastian. I was born here in Ontario, California. Here in California, I should say. I was born in Ontario. That's the O.
Repping the O.
Can you do the?
It depends who's watching, Pero repping the IE, But yeah. I was born and raised there. Most of my life was in Ontario. I would say my life really began, when I was like 14, 15. That's when I started to like actually take off for my career and stuff. Because like I was just at home playing video games, just doing the normal kid stuff. And like at that age of like 14, 15, I just really like, there was just something in me, like just a drive of like freedom. I didn't get much freedom like growing up, like as kids you want to like get out there, learn to drive, go out with your friends and stuff, and just like do the normal kid stuff. But I really got into bikes a lot, and that changed the course of my life. As we know it today, I'm still in the bike game, obviously. So I started riding bikes, literally just had this long driveway at my old house that was like, it was pretty long. It was like a duplex thing. And I literally would ride circles around there. And like I would count like 100 to 200 circles I would do. Just for no reason, because like my mom was like, okay, just stay here. Like she's very protective. She's like, just stay here. That's it. So I literally just rode circles, and then that progressed to like riding down the block, and then riding to the mountains, and then going up the mountains and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So I just started riding a lot. I got into the community. I made a name for myself. I got sponsored by a local bike shop. Ended up working there. So it was good. I ended up racing competitively. I went from riding like, my 20-inch Huffy that I was like, it was 3 sizes too small for me, right? I'm like, I'm outgrown it for sure, to riding like a very nice bike, like carbon fiber, everything, just like what you see, when you walk in, if you ever walk into the bike shop and you see the prices, you're like, who the hell would ever get that? And like, I was able to ride that like on a daily basis. But it was hard for sure. A lot of things happened to get to that point, racing competitively. Honestly, my life's been full of a lot of misfortune, a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures for sure. Like too many to count, really. But basically, I would just show up with whatever I had, $100 bike, or just like literally the bikes I owned were like less than $100, or just something I put together that my friend donated this, and my friend donated the wheels and the handlebars, and we just put it together, Frankenstein bike. And I literally would ride with these people who literally have $10,000 bikes. And it's like, that bike is worth more than my mom's car, my brother's car, our rent, like combined, bro. It's crazy. And like me living on like, $20 a month budget max, like it was tough, man. Like I would go through tires, I would just go through a whole bunch of stuff that I needed, and I would just have to figure out a way to get around it. So my family, I have a very small family, mostly like a broken family kind of situation. I don't want to bore you guys with the typical like, oh, I came from the bottom deal, but I'll give you like the important like snippets of my life. So there was never like really a father figure after like the age of 13, 14. My biological father was always like an alcoholic. He lost his mind. He started to lose his brain like a little bit. Like I don't know what it was, but he started to lose his mind. He like flipped out on my mom, and then ended up getting, they ended up getting divorced, and he left the scene. He was, he was there for me a little bit. He taught me how to play baseball, and we would ride bikes and all that stuff. But that was about it. Like that was right when I was getting ready to take off.
When did that happen? How old were you?
I think I was 13.
13.
I was 13 years old. Yeah, so he was there. We would ride, and like that's right when that I believe that's very that like all of this is kind of aftermath of like that '08 recession too, because I think my mom lost her job as well, and that like put pressure on everything. So I went to a single mom. We had a nice house, we had everything set, and then everything just collapsed. So we moved back in with like my grandparents. Back into their house. We had like probably 10 people living in like an apartment like this size, small apartment, like meant for like, we had like 2 rooms, we're all living there. So after that, since that point, I never really had anyone there that was like a masculine figure, like somebody to look after or like gain any proper skills. So everything I really had to do from that point on was to learn and to do myself. And what I ended up learning later in life is that what I really like to do is fix things. So whether it's physically or emotionally or like relationships, like I just like fixing things. Like I don't like to quit on things. I like to fix things a lot. So with that said, the two just didn't mix, but I ended up making it out, making a name for myself. A lot of cold, brutal nights, a lot of riding in the rain, a lot of training. Just that part of my life really set the tone for how much endurance I have, how much resilience, how much I could really do. It really taught me that I could do anything I want. I would literally ride 100 miles in one day in like 4.5 hours with like 10,000 feet of climbing. Just ridiculous. Like on a bike that's just human powered, and I was just a nobody. And I made a name for myself. And a lot of people that I still mess with today, definitely still have love for me. But that was a big deal because it just taught me that, life is going to be hard. You're going to have setbacks. Nothing comes easy in life, And like that was my mode of transportation. That was my main deal. Like, if I wanted to go to work, I worked, let's say I worked in San Dimas for the day, then I would ride to San Dimas and then ride home. Regardless of what time it was, regardless of what plans I had, that's how I did it, And I learned very quickly that, like from age of like 19, I learned very quickly that it's not so much like work if you want to, stay home and save money. I always had to work because I had to. So that's why I became independent so quickly, and I realized that if I'm gonna do it, it's for me. We didn't have much growing up. I just had mostly a roof over my head. Like my first car, I bought it myself. I didn't have anything handed to me. The sponsorship I had to earn by making a name for myself, making content on Facebook, Instagram, and just working hard, riding 12 to 20 hours a week on the bike. So that was all, nothing was really handed my way for sure. So that kind of set the tone for the rest of my life. But that's just one of my hobbies. I've since taken off and picked up a lot of different hobbies and just a lot of different stuff for sure. But that's kind of like the main rundown. That kind of gets me to where I am now. I've worked at a bike shop my whole life. My first job was at a bike shop. And then I worked at another shop. I became a service manager there. So I got into management. Through the pandemic, we had a global bike boom. So it was a historic event where basically every freaking bike in the world was sold out. And if you went to Walmart, Target, and you just saw the aisles of bikes were empty, you'll know what I'm talking about. Bikes all of a sudden became extremely valuable, extremely hard to get, and the whole pandemic situation made it very difficult to get people bikes and stuff. So I, out of necessity, I got thrown into the deep end, and running with a crew, they're all guys that are my age. I had to quickly become a leader, and quickly just work long hours. I mean, I worked 12, 14-hour days. You know, I'd work 60-hour weeks like normal, like just normal stuff. And that's when I realized like, okay, like I have a career. I have a good, solid financials. Like I'm doing really good. And then I just kept ramping from there. And then I found myself here at, working here with Isaac and Max at Beachside. So it's our shop right there too.
For sure, bro. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's mad respect. I always think that I've come across people whose upbringing has been met with challenging times, like within the family, like within the household. And just because in my experience, I never had that. I think my parents were always good, to each other. And I'm fortunate enough, and I thank God for that always, because I can't imagine me just going through life, seeing that. And you mentioned your dad being an alcoholic. And I think that, I think you shared with me, and I don't know if you didn't want to put this in, but also like with your mom, like the relationship with your mom and how that was. But just knowing how your relationship with your parents was, like, mad respect for you just putting it on for yourself, and knowing that you kind of had to just make it out on your own. And yeah, bro, I mean, mad respect for doing that. And I don't know if you...
Was there something that, because Isaac touched on that and those tough situations, what would you say like was getting you through those tough situations? Because, a lot of people crumble, and a lot of people like give up, and a lot of people do make it out as well, but many times it's like they read a book, or they saw a video, or, they really look up to someone that kind of like pushed them through these moments. What would you say helped you in all of these moments just continue to push and, be here today?
Yeah. And then, I mean, on that note, it was like, like I said, just like getting out on the bike and just freaking training super hard. Like I would watch, like I'd get up like 7 a.m., like, just doing things that a normal kid wouldn't do. I'd get up like at 7 a.m., I'd watch the Tour de France, the biggest bike race in the world. I'd see some amazing athletes doing some amazing things, and I was like, wow, like what would it take for me to get there, And
so you were getting inspired by watching?
Yeah, I got inspired by like seeing professional racers do their thing and just perform at a level that's just like it's immeasurable how amazing their talent is, So I just got a lot of passion from that, and I just kept networking with the whole bike community, and I just kept growing. Like I got into one team, and then I got into a better team. I just kept stepping stone. I got into a nicer bike and a nicer setup, and I was able to travel and do more things. So I just started progressing my way more and more. Yeah, I mean, to reply to kind of what Isaac said too, I mean, it goes much deeper than the surface. Like everyone, you hear stories, everyone, oh, I had alcoholic dad, this and that, broken family. You hear those words all the time. It goes much deeper than that for sure. There's a lot of things that are just like hard to describe. But it definitely goes much deeper than that for sure. Like there was a lot of situations in my life where like I had to choose and sacrifice and just like figure out on my own, it's always been like an on my own thing, One key example is I've been vegetarian for a long time, since I was like 14, 15. I'm 23 now. So when I turned vegetarian, my mom said, good luck, because I'm not cooking anything for you. And I'm like a 14, 15-year-old kid. I can't fend for myself. I can't even get a working permit to work out of high school. I'm in high school, So I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. So I would save up my money. I would like buy pastas, or like I would, borrow money and like just make my own food. And I was really committed. And like my mom saw that I was extremely committed, and she finally gave in. But it's just like, for me, that's a normal thing. Like when I go in and challenge myself or do something different, I expect it to go wrong. Like I expect worst case scenario. And that was pretty much worst case scenario. So that kind of set the tone. Something so simple like, your child wants to perform. He stopped playing video games. He's going out on the bike. He's not doing drugs. He wants to be healthier. He just wants to live this lifestyle. Because I was overweight at the time, like, to a point where I just didn't feel comfortable, So that was my main motivation, was just to get on the bike and do all these things. And even then, it's like something like that, like I wasn't supported, It was like, I was teased and like bullied in a way for like deciding what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, that's my decision. It worked for me. I lost a ton of weight. I became extremely fast on the bike. I had plenty of energy. And that was one key moment I remember where it was like my brain kind of switched and I was like, well, it's just me versus me. It's me versus the world in a way too. Where I was like, okay, well, this is just how it is, This is just how life's going to be. And that's just one example. There's like so many things that I could think of. But that was one example that really stuck out to me, for sure.
I don't know how much we want to continue to talk about your parents, but I do have like a question where, like, do you have grace for your parents today? Like, I think about myself and when I was understanding and figuring things out, I was building some type of resentment towards my parents. Why didn't you teach me this? Why didn't you put me on? Why didn't you guide me correctly? Why didn't you, all these like, why didn't you do this, right? But over time I started to understand. I was like, like there's no way. Like my parents moved from Mexico to the US. Like they don't even know the language still to this day. I mean, they know it a little bit broken. But I'm just like, I can't, they took such a big jump and, so I begin to understand and, that resentment is not there, on all these things that they could have done. How is it for you? Do you have that understanding of like, yeah, my dad, he went through all this, my mom went through all this, or have you not really hit that period yet?
I've definitely hit that period. What really stimulated that was moving out and kind of living on my own. Like, we ended on bad terms, me leaving and whatever, but I realized like my mom will still reach out and she still loves me. And it's like, I have to kind of understand that there's a lot of things that you don't know. There's a lot of things that you just will never understand. And your mom could be 40, 50 years old and you won't be there for another 20 years and then you'll get it. But by then she might be gone. You have to think about that, And it's like, I had resentment at first because like, I felt like everything I wanted to do had just a roadblock. It was like, financial, emotional, or just whatever it could be, logistics wise, like just something. There was always a roadblock. And I would always be like, well, because at the time I was in cycling, and cycling's a rich man's sport, I saw a lot of, yeah, everything costs money. The bikes could be anywhere from $1,000 to, and it starts at $1,000 to $13,000, $14,000.
That's just the bike.
That's just the bike.
Like what other? I'm assuming there's.
Yeah, there's plenty of more. I mean, shoes alone. They make special shoes. They could be $400, $500 even. I've seen clothing. Like, bro, a pair of shorts is like $100 at least. That's at the very least, and you need. For the amount that I'm riding, you can't just wash. Like you have to have a set, because I was riding 7 days a week, like all the time. Right. So I mean, I had so much clothing, so it just adds up like crazy. And this is, it's a lot of stress on me or my sponsors or whoever's helping me through this time. However we could make it work. But like, I did have a lot of resentment at one point. I went to go purchase like my first car, and it was a car. I literally planned this for like a year. I was like, okay, cool, let's go. My mom was there, and her, I couldn't get co-signed by her because her credit was bad. And then I went to my brother, and his credit was bad. And like, all these roadblocks, I just like, you can't help but like, you plan this for a year. You have all this money saved for the down payment. You're ready to go. And then you just can't do it. And you have to completely switch gears. And it's like, it's just such a stressful thing, especially not being so young. when you're so young, like the littlest thing could happen and the world would end, right? You're like, oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. When you're older, you're like, whatever. Misfortune is like whatever, you know. You kind of grow up and you become more, you know, more steel, you know, more hardcore. But you know, just like I think, just like your fam, like my dad did cross, and he met my mom. He crossed, you know, he met my mom when he was like, I think they were like 17 at the time, or 16 or something like that. But yeah, he came over here to make a better life, and without him doing that, I wouldn't be here, you know. So it's like I understand like that sacrifice, what it took. You know, I often saw him working like jobs, just picking fruit all day. You know, sunrise, sunset, he'll just pick fruit. He'll tell me stories about picking fruit all day long. And like I'm a kid, I'm like yeah, whatever. And then I remember those stories now, and I'm like, man, like I can't have resentment for a man who did that just for me to have a roof over my head, food on the table. You know, yeah, like things happen, but you know, you learn to be more forgiving over time for sure. So I definitely have hit that period of life where I'm like, you know, I definitely understand that no one's perfect, and it's, you know, you don't get to choose your family. You know, you don't pick your family. You pick your friends. You can't pick your family. You're just born with them, and you're stuck with them for whatever time. You know. So it could always be worse. That's the way I see it, you know. It could always be a worse situation. It's not as bad as it seems. You have to have some sort of, you know, you have to let the resentment go, you know. Like at the time it's okay if it's your, you know, motivator to push forward, but when you grow up you will realize that like that resentment's not good.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's I mean, at the end of the day, they gave you a lot of resilience, you know, and that's like, I see that in you, and all those obstacles, although no one wants to go through them, right? But it does make you into a tougher person, you know, than the person who's just like babied their whole way and, you know, taken care of super well. Then like I said, there's no perfect way, you know, and I can't imagine being a parent and raising someone, and, you know, you think you have an idea, but you just don't know how that's gonna, how the child is gonna articulate everything and, you know, use everything that you give them, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Let's move on from.
Well, before, because I want to talk about how, you know, I met you, and well, how we met you, and how everything stemmed from that interaction. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you, how did cars? Because I know you're super interested in cars. You got your MR2, and we even shouted it out in the first episode. But how did you get into cars, bro? Where did that love for cars start?
Video games. I feel like that's a lot of people.
Which game?
Forza and Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo was like really like the OG. Like I was playing Gran Turismo on my PlayStation 2. I also played Underground, Need for Speed, which was a good game. That was a good one. That was like the very first. But it was also, my brother was really into cars, and like I just kind of like followed in his footsteps, because my older brother's 4 years older than me. So what he does, I would do, because we were like, you know, we grew up as siblings, you know. So that's what really, really got me into it, you know, to begin with. But as a kid, it was always just a dream. It was like, yeah, like, you know, like you think you're gonna have all this and all that, and like you realize it's a lot harder than that. You know, video games make everything seem so attainable. And
did you guys play a game called Burnout?
Yeah, I do.
Bro, that game was so.
It's like super realistic, right?
It was, and like it was. I love that game. I also had a Game Boy, and there was like, I think the Need for Speed was on there. I think that's where I played it. And you get to customize, you know, how the cars look, the neon lights.
Yeah, that was one thing that, like, man, like I would wait for Christmas when I was a kid, and like, yeah, we definitely had games for sure. That was like our one thing.
It's interesting for me because I don't know if it also helps that you're in California and you get to see a little bit more of a car scene. Yeah, like I get to understand it a little bit more. When you're in Indiana, you don't get to see any cool cars, you know, like
like rare,
bro. Like you're just watching Hondas, you know, Kias, Toyotas, you know, the minivan. But it's interesting. So for me, I didn't develop this love for cars until very recently. But now that I am developing, I realize again when I would have those like video game moments, and I was like, I was gravitated towards cars, but just like not being in that space.
Yeah, you kind of grow up and you grow out of it, you know, because like every successful person, like they probably hardly play any video games, right? Like that's just the thing. Like as you grow up, you just stop doing those things that made you like smile and like those things that made you look up, you know. But yeah, definitely, it's like here in California, the scene is like probably as big as any scene, especially here, you know, at the beach. It's
Compared to what about Tokyo?
Tokyo's definitely pretty big too. You know, that's definitely definitely maybe even bigger. It just depends. But yeah, I don't know too much about the scene there. I just know it is pretty big for sure. And there's a lot of influence from there.
Tokyo to here.
Yeah, Tokyo has a lot of influence.
That's what Milan told me.
What do they mostly drive? They got the Nissan, right? They're really into.
Yeah, I mean, all Japanese cars for sure, Nissans, Toyotas, but like the nice ones, GTRs, Supras, you know, Eclipses, NSX like Honda, Type R, Civics.
Do you know why it's big over there?
Well, the culture really took off there. I wouldn't know for sure, but I know the culture really, really took off there. Like the flashy, the neon, and all that stuff. Just like a lot of carryover made its way over here. You know, like you see Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. That movie brought a lot of the culture like to light. You know, Fast and the Furious is known for like not being 100% accurate, but you know, like during the earlier Fast and the Furious, they were more or less like better accuracy rate than now,
Really good.
than like flying cars and like all that crazy stuff now. Yeah, so the scene's pretty big there, but here in Cali, huge scene for sure, big scene. But it's a good thing and a bad thing, you know. It's a good thing and a bad thing because there's so many people. There's a lot of money, you know, like people are able to afford things, and sometimes they're just irresponsible. Not, you know, yeah. There's a lot of irresponsibility, and I'd like to think that that's not the culture I align myself with, but the culture more or less of like people who are growing and building their cars and like, you know, just doing honest things and just modest, working their way up, having fun, you know, in the right occasions and stuff like that. But the scene's huge here for sure. Way bigger than Indiana for sure, I would imagine.
I mean, I don't think there is a car scene in Indiana.
You did just. I do have to say that you kind of put me on.
No shit.
Yeah, for
That's
sure,
crazy to
bro.
think.
Yeah, and I wanted to let you know because I remember when I lived in Diamond Bar when we first got here, and after I met you and you pulled up in your MR2,
Right.
and to me that was the first time that I got, I think, into a what do you call it? A car that someone built, like a.
Yeah, like a sports car.
Yeah,
or
like
something.
Exactly. My brother was sort of into cars and he knew all the brands, and I remember telling Max even that I wouldn't know the brands of the names, and my brother would always make fun of me because I didn't know, and he would always like list them out in front of me, and but I never really got into cars until recently, obviously. But you definitely put me on when I met you and you had your MR2. I was like, what the heck, like he built this, and you know, you pulled up and you took me on a spin like around Diamond Bar, and I was like, what the fuck? Hearing
The turbo.
the turbo, like
Yeah.
it was definitely like quite the experience. But to move on, because I did want to talk about how I met you when in 2019 when we started Riding Baby Bikes. We were obviously in the early stages of putting all of that together, buying inventory, buying accessories, and I remember pulling up to was it InCycle?
Yeah.
Pulling up to InCycle. It's a bike shop in Chino.
It was in Chino.
Yeah, in Chino, and I was shopping for some baskets for the bikes.
Yeah.
And
It's crazy to think now.
yeah, just remember pulling in and asking you know help at the store, and I don't know if you started helping me out right away or someone else did, and then I got bounced to you. somehow I ended up with you, and I was like, man, like this dude, like you were like a bro, like I felt like I was vibing with you, and you were definitely helping me out. And I remember you asking me, so like, what do you do? Or is this for like, you got a fleet or you got a bunch of bikes? Because I bought like a few baskets, right? And then I told you, yeah, I just like started a bike shop a bike rental shop in Santa Monica, and we have all these many bikes. Gave you the details, and then you were like, yeah, man, I mean, if you ever need like help with the maintenance, definitely hit me up. And I don't know, I think I got your phone number, right?
Right.
I think I got your phone number, and then I just came back, told Max about the experience, and eventually, because you told me that you could work on bikes, and I don't know if you were you already working on bikes at InCycle? Like, you'll definitely have that experience, right? Of like working on bikes.
Working at InCycle, I was doing mechanic work. They already had like their hardcore guys who like been there for whatever many years and knew how to do everything. But I was like their backup. You know, I would do side jobs and just stuff like that. But I definitely started working on bikes since I started riding bikes out of necessity. It kind of translates over to cars too, because I built my car out of necessity because I can't afford to pay someone to build it for me.
Right.
And I can't afford to pay someone to like fix it all the time, so I have to know how to fix it myself, you know, to keep it going. Just like the bike, I mean, I ride it 7 days a week. If it breaks one day, that's not enough for me. You know, I have to get my ride in that day, so I'll fix it or do whatever it takes to do that. So, you know, I would volunteer my time a lot at co-ops, which are basically where you would go to get your bike fixed. Like if you're homeless, you know, that's your main source of transportation. You're very low income. That's just how you get around on and off the bus. You know, I would like volunteer my time in you know, in exchange for like parts that I would need for my bike or like tires,
Tools,
just
too, right?
necessities.
They let you use their tools.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So I could pop in there on a day and get my stuff fixed, and they let me borrow the tools, and that's where I started to learn everything, man. I met a guy named Ismail, and to this day I still keep in touch with him. You know, he helped me out a lot. He taught me a lot. He's very patient, very, you know, he was like that mentor that just got me going. You know, he was that mentor.
Damn, the homie Ismail.
Yeah, shout outs for sure.
Why did you decide to tell me, bro? Hey, if you, because you know that tells me that you were thinking like, let me network, let me find other opportunities.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to tell me, hey, if you ever need maintenance, like I got you? Because you were working at InCycle and.
Yeah. So, honestly, my thing is, like I said in the beginning, my thing is like trying to help people. So I mean, from what I remember, I don't think I was really looking to make a buck. It was more just to help, to be honest. Like when I meet good, genuine people and like I click with them, like I always offer, you know, whatever I can for them, you know. Like I've had people I met riding bikes that like they send me a picture and I help them edit it or just something. Like I'm just that type of person to help out with anything, or they ask me for advice and I take them to wherever it is that they need to go, or send them to somebody that I know. So it was really mostly just like trying to help out, learning that your situation, like you just got over here, you're just starting. So I was like, you know, me just having whatever knowledge I had, which honestly wasn't a lot at the time. Like it's crazy to think that like I was like offering to help because like I wasn't the greatest mechanic. I was like just starting out. So, but I was definitely, for my age, I was definitely pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy to think because like you wanted to buy like 20 baskets, and I was like, dude, that's gonna cost like a ridiculous amount of money. I was like, that makes no sense. Like I was like, you know, and I always keep it a buck with like customers, clients, just anybody I meet. I always keep it a buck with them. You know, I see them as just like I don't change in front of clients. You know, I don't have like a work mode, like often you'll talk to a coworker, you'll be talking to them, they'll see a customer, they'll completely change, and it's like, you know, like, and in that job it was sales oriented as well. So that was one thing that I was criticized a lot for, like by, you know, the bosses and the managers, that like I just didn't have that like salesman authority, you know, and just like that pitch. And I was like, well, you know, it helps me meet people like you know, that are like genuine and legit, and like when people come in and they know that they're getting good information and good advice. So yeah, it was just the fact that you're trying to buy so many baskets at like full retail price. I was like, just go on Alibaba or just go on Amazon and just like That's like a respect to the company I work for, but like, bro, like, but it's crazy to think.
Yeah.
But do you remember him saying that? Like, well,
I just remember him really trying to help me out and guiding me, and I don't remember the exact transaction and how it went, but all I remember was that he offered to help. And then eventually, like I said, I went back to Max and we started riding baby bikes. And obviously with use, the bike started getting beat up.
yeah.
Right? And then that's when I really started to get in contact with Sebas. And I think I told you, I met this guy that can fix bikes. Why don't we give it a shot? Let's see if he can maintain our fleet, right? And then, yeah, I just hit you up and being like, hey, bro, I got like 20 plus bikes and all beach cruisers. They need tune-ups. And we arranged it. And it happened. You pulled up. And I just remember that first time that you went and us working there by the truck, you pulled everything out, and the bikes were just ass, bro. I remember that first. Yeah, I remember that first. I remember that first time that you went, and you just like showing me like how bad they were, and I was like, thank God I found this guy, and that you were willing to help. But that was kind of like the beginning of our friendship, and then from there it just I kept calling you to do more tune-ups and fix our bikes. And then we incorporated electric bikes, and that's when like things started to get real. And obviously we're working on our friendship too. I don't think we ever hung out like besides like just doing like bike repairs, but I definitely was like, when you would go and we would chat, like you started to open up about like your family, and your girl back then would come, and like I met her too. So we just kind of started forming like links, and we got the e-bikes, and then you started working on the e-bikes. And then, I think, I don't know, like, your thoughts on, like, when you met Sebas, like, what you think, like, this dude is just pulling up to work on our bikes, and obviously Max started working on the friendship, too.
Yeah, I think the first time I met Sebas was when he pulled up at the garage and came to do a tune-up. I think you probably weren't available that day, because you were you were taking care of the bikes and the maintenance, and this was again in a phase where Isaac was more involved in Rib, and I was supporting him, but I was a little bit working on Prospect Bacon, and just doing more behind the scenes stuff. And when it was required for me to be there, I was there. So I don't know, when I first met Sebas, I was like, yeah, he's pretty cool, but I couldn't really like make a big judgment yet, because I just met him so quick, and it's bikes, and you guys know that I don't know too much about like the fixing and stuff, so it was like I wasn't like I didn't connect with Sebas too much. But I would just say, then out of nowhere you tell me, well, we were looking for someone for Beachside, right? And then you tell me, hey, I think Sebas, and then that's when I was like, all right, who is this guy? Like, I really have to like get to know this guy, because Isaac wants him to be part of Beachside.
And I always had it on my mind. Well, not always, but I was like, I'm definitely going to work more with this guy. Like, I'm definitely gonna keep working with Sebas, and I'm gonna see where this relationship leads. But it's when we bought our second shop, and just thinking about it before buying it, I was like, we gotta put a service. Like, it just makes sense to put a service center, and that's what I thought in my head. And then knowing that you were, you knew how to repair bikes, we were building our relationship, I was like, Max, why don't we, tell Sebas to work with us at this new bike shop? And obviously you had a job. You weren't in Psycho anymore. You were at Jack's. And I was like, well, it's going to be a push for sure, because he lives all the way, he lives super far. He already has a job. He has a girl. Like, you were just thinking of all the things that were like, it's going to be difficult, right? But that's when I told Max, and he's like, all right, I got to meet this guy, right? Like, for real. And I think we met up, right? Like, we met up to talk about it, or we got on a call. Something happened.
Yeah, how did you hear?
I think I pulled up after repairing the bikes one day. I came here to the apartment, and we chatted.
But sorry, bro, to cut you off, but you know what happened? I remember now. You were working. We called you up for maintenance on the fleet, and we were chatting there. And I remember telling you, we're thinking of buying this shop in Redondo Beach. I was like, I definitely feel like you could work that. I just like threw it out
They were
there.
planting the seed.
Yeah, I was just planting
Yeah.
the seed and seeing like how you would react. And bro,
Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's cause cause you had your cousin in mind,
Yeah.
and that's what fucked everything up for you guys, you know.
Yeah.
And that's when I stepped up to, you know.
That's true. We did think of my cousin Veggie at first, and then he flaked on us, and well, didn't really, whatever. And then
Flaking Veggie.
I thought of Sebas, and there when you were at the truck doing maintenance, I just threw it out there. I wanted to see how it would land, and you were so open to it. You were not like 100%, but you were like, well, I can. You started to think about it, kind of like started to.
But here's my question, cause I felt like we had all. I feel like you had already asked Sebas to come work at Rib. Like I feel like, didn't that happen at some point? Like at least you know, would you be willing to come and drive? And I remember Sebas was always kind of on that wave of like, nah, not really, because of the drive, you know.
Right, that's
and
true.
I remember that when you brought up, you know, Sebas, that was my main thing. I was like, well, it sounded like before he wasn't really interested.
Yeah.
But then I did feel, you know, the way things were moving. And what he was telling me based on what you were telling him, it seemed like you were interested. So my question is, it sounded like with Rib, there wasn't too much interest, but then once Beachside, that opportunity came, it seemed like you were interested in that.
Right.
What changed or what interested you about that opportunity?
What interested me was the fact that your cousin had, or you know, Veggie, I guess. He had you know, he left you guys high and dry, and I was like, damn, like that's unfortunate, you know. And whenever I see opportunities like that, I like to do my best to just help or just be there and just take advantage of the opportunity as well. So that was a big motivating factor for sure. At Rib, you know, in those days, like how Isaac mentioned, I came in the MR2 to his house to fix some bikes or something, because that's all I had. You know, I just had like my little sports car, and I pulled up, and like it didn't fit much tools, but I fit everything in there, and I had the bikes on the roof when I wanted to go on a bike ride. So just like my financial mobility expanded as I was able to save money and, you know, get something where it's more reliable and it could take me, you know, I could beat the car up and drive on the freeway and it would take me everywhere. And, you know, it's not something that like you know, because a lot of people don't like enjoy driving, you know, like I have my car to enjoy driving, and then I have a car just to get around. So as I came up in age and I started to make more at Jack's, I was able to get all the stuff I needed to lay down that platform I needed to take off, you know. Basically I was building like my runway, you know, like I needed to buy my tools, I needed to buy like a car that can get me around, because literally, like, you know, without the MR2 I was on the bike. That's it, you know. And like I was so passionate about that I wouldn't let that go. You know, I was like, I can't sell that car and get something normal, like regular, like that's not me, you know. So I got all my tools, I got all my stuff, and you know, and it just worked out. It just worked out. It was a perfect time in my life where I was ready to move on, and at the same time where I was working, I felt the decline coming. Like we just had this massive boom, and I felt like the world was gonna come crashing down. And that's what ended up happening. Where I work now is no longer there.
Right?
Yeah, it's closed. So I worked at Jack's Bicycle Center in Chino Hills. That shop is no longer around. Yeah, I was right there at that top plateau, and I just dipped. You know, but it just worked out perfectly. Like, you know. I was like, okay, like I had to talk to some people, like some friends that I knew about it. I was like, hey, like, what? Like I saw them doing big things, and I'm like, what do you think? Like, they're like, fuck it, man. Like, just take the opportunity and, you know, just fuck it. Like, just do what you gotta do, you know.
And where did you know, because so many, like, again, this was a new shop, right?
Yeah.
And it was our second, and you know, we were expanding, and I'm sure you were like, oh shit, like these guys are expanding, you know, that must be good, right? Mm-hmm. But where did you find that, like, where did you place your optimism? Because it's like, it's a new shop, you know, and it's a new partnership, and you know, we're still a small team, you know. What motivated you to, you know, take that leap of faith?
Yeah, well, I saw how well Rib was doing, Like I remember when Isaac pulled out the e-bikes, it's crazy to think now, but like literally that was like the very first years that e-bikes were coming out. It was like e-bikes were new to the whole world. And they were, yeah, you guys were early on it, and Dad just started to take off for you guys, and like, I was like, how do these guys have like freaking 7, 8 e-bikes? Like, what the hell? I'm like, what's going on, you know? And I'm like servicing them, and it's crazy because like I don't know how to work on these things. They're all new to us. Like they're new, like the axles are slotted and they get stuck, and like now I could fix a flat tire in a second. But back then I would like scratch my head looking at it. I'm like, how this won't come out? I'm like hammering it, you know. So it's very new, but that leap of faith that you guys took, I'm sure paid off plenty because like, dude, like those e-bikes are huge. They're everywhere now, you know. And yeah, just seeing the numbers, seeing how everything came out. You guys are very good at marketing. You know, you guys are super good at marketing, and I had no doubt that you guys were gonna be able to do good at the shop. You know, another thing is that I was gonna be pretty much the only employee, so I knew that it was, you know, if it's in my hands, I could take it and run with it for sure. Like there was no other outside, you know, management or just like. There were just no barriers stopping me, you know, and it would just seem like it would make every sense to me, you know.
You like that aspect of like, oh, I'm gonna have like, you know, not full control, but I'm gonna be involved a lot in this.
Yeah,
you like
definitely. Yeah, I was, you know, I really wanted to be involved in a big way at Beachside, and you know, it's done well so far, you know. But yeah, the involvement part of it was like huge for me because. I'm like one of my first jobs. My first job, I was learning how to like do something. It was a very slow day. I was learning how to do something, and it was like something that a manager would do. And then the owner comes in. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Why don't you just watch the front? Like, just sit there and just watch the front." And I was like, "I guess, but I'm just learning how to do this." And he's like, "Well, she's a manager. Are you gonna be a manager?" He's like, "No, I'll get out there." And that was like my villain arc. I was like, for sure, bro. Like, no worries. Yeah. You know? That was like my villain arc. I was like, all right, for sure. Like right now, like I'm racing bikes, I'm doing my thing. But best believe if I do want to make a career, I will do it. You know, like, and now having Beachside is like an amazing feeling. Because I look back at those days and I'm like, the amount of value that employer lost, you know? Because it's crazy. Like I look back and I'm like, wow, like, they lost such a huge opportunity, you know. Like the saying goes, like steel is worth, you know, a couple cents, but when made into springs for a Rolex, it's worth thousands. Right. You know, it's whatever you make of it, whatever you mold that person to be, and whatever you mold yourself to be. You know, you just need to surround yourself around the right people. And I was like, I knew that you guys were the right people. Like I saw your guys' upbringing. You know, everything you guys have been through, the struggle, like, yeah, I could just see it in someone's eyes when they've been through stuff, and I'm like, okay, like, he knows what's up, he keeps it a buck, like, he's at the same spot as me, you know, like, this would be a great partnership for us to move forward, you know, and I just took the leap of faith because, like, I would argue that, like, 80% of people wouldn't have made the decision. They would have just stuck to whatever they want to do and just be comfortable and just do their thing. You know, and a lot of the people I used to work with are still there doing the same thing, and that's cool. But for me, it's just like, it's not enough.
What did you think about like going into the rental space? Because, you know, you were in the service and sales, right? Yeah. And so with us, I mean, the main pitch, I think, even though you did have the idea of opening the service department, I think the main pitch was, you know, it's rentals, and that's our main bread and butter, you know, and that's what we know to do. We'll explore doing service, but how did you feel like, I'm sure you already knew that a rental bike company existed, but how did you feel like fully going into that space?
I mean, I had a strong backbone in the bike industry, so I knew everything there was to know about like bikes in general for the most part. So I was pretty confident going into it, knowing that it was going to be you know, not a huge transition for me. It was going to be something that I could definitely take care of and handle. And like I said, I had a strong backbone. I had a lot of people supporting me. I had a lot going for me, you know, and like the transition wasn't the easiest for sure just because of other things. But for the most part, being in the bike industry helped out a lot.
Oh yeah, but like, what you say, you were excited that, you know, you were going into rentals and it was just, you know, different than, you know, having to fix a bike or sell a bike, because, you know, you haven't had to sell as much as you did in Jack's, right? Service, yes.
Right.
But, you know, going into that rental space, were you like excited, or were you just like, oh, whatever, it's a bike thing, you know, I'll do it?
Right. Sorry, bro. Well, I do remember that one of the other reasons why you didn't want to work at Rib is because it didn't have service. I think I remember that. That's one of the things that you told me. And then eventually with Beachside, I think that's something that you were like, well, I would like it if we can do service.
Yeah, Beachside, we were gonna do the service. But to go back on that question, you know, that was like something I was excited for sure. You know, just to start it and just to do that, because I literally like I said, a lot of things aligned, like me investing the amount I did in tools the year prior, and just like, instead of spending the money on stupid things, I was like, okay, like this is a time in my life, this is a year in my life where I need to invest in myself massively, because I was like, there was so much foreshadowing of like what was to come, you know, like that year I moved out and I had to buy a car and just stuff like that, you know, and I'm very ambitious, man. Like I don't like to, you know, take the payment plan or do that. Like I just do everything at once. I save my money and I do it. So that was something that I was like, you know, ready to take on. And for the rentals, I was at first, it's funny because at first I was like, nah, it's whatever. It'll be cool. And then as summertime ramped up, you know, I was like, holy shit. I was like, I'm seeing like 10 faces in like 30 minutes, like 10 different people interacting with in like 30 minutes. So it was really cool to see, especially when people came back and they were like, wow, like this was the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. And I'm like, holy shit. So I go out on a bike ride. And I go to the beach and I get like goosebumps. I'm like, bro, this is amazing.
Yeah. Did you ever ride the trail before, like the Marvin?
Never even been like, yeah. Wow. Like the most I would ride is like I would go to the beach, I would touch the beach and go home, and that was 100 miles for me. That was 50 miles one way and 50 miles back. I would touch the water, I'd put my toes in the water, and then I'd go back home. Like I didn't have time to explore or check it out. I didn't have friends that like had an apartment out here, had a place. Like I didn't have people that had it going for them like that, you know. And it was only a dream, you know. It was just like, oh, we'll ride to the beach. It's cool. It's nice. And we'll go to like Huntington or Long Beach. Like we went to Newport, like just like something super basic and simple. And I never like touched the beach, and I was like, this exists. I was like, this trail exists. Like people just cruise right, like thousands of people, and I'm like, holy smokes. I was like, what am I missing? And yeah, just completely opened my eyes. I was like, wow, like this is the experience we're giving people. It kind of opened my eyes to rentals more. You know, I felt very naive, you know. And I went out there on the bike and I got on that bike trail, the same one that all of our customers go to, you know, and I was like, wow, this is extremely nice, you know. And just seeing all those people, interacting with all those people, you know, I was like, this is a really cool job, you know, like just working these rentals here. You know, I'm on the beach, the weather's beautiful.
We're on the beach.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a beautiful beach, you know.
And now, and I know this is like a more recent thing, but now you've made like really good relationships with like the people next door. So it's like it adds to that vibe, huh? Of like you like going to work for, you see the homies too.
Yeah, I try to be community based. Like I always try to socialize with anybody I'm around, because my circle is so small. Like my circle is so small, but like. I definitely do like try when it comes to like the neighbors and people like that, like they're family, you know, like if they need anything, I got them. You know, if they need to borrow a tool or they need my help lifting something or moving something in or just whatever, like I got them, you know, like they come first, you know, or they bring their bike to get fixed. I drop everything. I do their stuff first, you know. That's just the way I think you should treat people.
You allow that, Isaac?
That's just the way I treat people because you never know who those people will be. I mean, man, you know, like you just don't know. Like
that's one of the things that I would say I kind of like wish Rib had, which is that like business like community, because we're like on our own, you know, we're very and you know there's Peter, true, And we have a lot of relationships. Like we made relationships with like the food vendors and Peter and just like a lot of people there. But I don't know. It's just cool like being in that plaza and just like the businesses like really being so close to each. I mean, it's literally you guys are right next to each other.
Yeah, I could literally like knock on the wall and they'll like knock back.
It's cool because it's like I don't know. I feel like you could honestly record that whole experience of like the plaza working. I could easily see a vlog to be made of like all of the dynamic. Yeah.
Office vibes type stuff.
It's like the Zacks, like what they go through, what we go through, like the T-bar, and like, and then like how the businesses interact as well.
Yeah.
It would just be so cool.
Yeah, that makes it a lot better, bro. Just meeting people once getting out there. I mean, immediately, like, we started meeting people immediately. Like, we met Johnny, and then we, like the first day we were there, we met Johnny, obviously, and then we met, everyone at Saks, because we literally, like, had our first day, we ate lunch there, and we're like, yeah, this place is pretty good, and then, like, then the place...
Well, I said that. I definitely said that.
Well, I said it was pretty good for sure at the start,
I always went there from day one, for sure.
Saks was the
These prices are a
vibe.
little different to me, but...
he was.
And I remember...
Back home, this is like $7.
And I remember I was like, no, this is cheaper than Santa Monica.
Yeah,
this is slightly cheaper than Santa Monica. So that's why I was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I do want to talk about kind of like the experience that I had just starting that with Sebas, because I think it's so important to Beachside and where we're at right now. We're about to actually finish 12 full months because we started in April. We're about to finish,
Which, by the way, sorry, we have to throw a banger. There has to be something.
Yeah,
like, we have to do something.
I agree.
We did the 3-year rib anniversary. We did the bikes between everybody. We have to run it back.
Yeah.
Something hard.
We will. But yeah, bro, I just remember, to backtrack a little bit, I saw the vision of doing the service with you and you just, creating that opportunity and how ambitious you were and how you like helped us out. So I definitely was rooting for you. Like I definitely was like, I brought it up to Max a couple of times. And then when we finally made it happen, there was like negotiation and trying to figure it out. And obviously at the beginning it was a little bit rough because, we didn't know what the shop was capable of doing. Even when before we bought the shop, we would ask, obviously we have to do our due diligence and figure out the numbers. And Johnny just had a mess, he was not organized with his numbers. So we were just kind of like going based on assumptions and our best guesses and comparing rib to Beachside, but we knew it was going to be different because of the overhead, right?
It's totally different.
But at the same time, we wanted to pay you well. We knew that we had to use that as an incentive for you to leave your other job and come with us and the drive, right? And like there was like a solid, like, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks of negotiation, like back and forth, just trying to figure it out. And us getting closer to the date of opening, and we were tripping. Like, we got to the point where I think we made like a rush decision to like bring you on. We were just like, let's just pay him like what he's asking, right? And like let's pay him well, and without knowing what like the numbers were actually going to be. Eventually, we had to kind of like work things out because like the numbers weren't just there. But we did like make you a partner, like in our service department, right? Like you do get a cut from like the service department, and I think it's worked out like great for both parties. I think you're incentivized to like just work hard at the service department, and our end, like on my end, I feel confident enough that you got that shit like handled, right?
Yeah.
But bro, you were so monumental to like the startup of Beachside, and just going in there. I remember you having just like your little case, like your little toolbox, right? And like us as business owners just depending on Sebas' toolbox for like all the services, bro.
I had to really like mastermind that toolbox. I was like, this is gonna be crazy.
But I mean, how long were we running without the service department?
It was like a month.
A month.
Yeah, it was a month. And we were cooking it up. I was trying to brainstorm how we were going to do it and talking to Sebas. And I remember going back to, summer wasn't there yet. And there were times where you got really, it was slow. It was so slow, right? Especially during the weekdays. And some weekends, obviously, we're not.
No one's busy.
Yeah, we're not as busy. And I remember you telling me, like, bro, like, we need to pick it up, right? Like, I want to see more stuff coming in. And yeah, I just relied on you 100% on your toolbox. We had no tools, like literally no tools to provide. Yeah. Only the tools that we had at RIB, but they had to stay at RIB because, you know, we were wrenching back here too and maintaining our fleet. But I was just so relying on you, and, you know, you came through. We had like the little stand for the bikes, and I remember like we're working on e-bikes and just like lifting those up on those stands, and just like I remember I have like all the photos and all the videos of like Beachside's progress, and bro, like the progress that we've made in that shop, like in terms of like renovation and the service department and our rentals, and now we have even like new rental fleet. Like, it's just changed the mural now. It's just changed so much, bro. And looking back at those videos, I just like, I've had so many good moments, you know, with you. Like, you know, like we'd always like record like the tires, you know, like when we were working like for the first time on e-scooter tires, bro. And just like, like, dear God, holding on to those like, you know, the tools to make those, replace those tires. Just looking back at all those moments, like, I'm like super thankful that like you came through, and like I just want to thank you for, you know, helping us out a ton, like to take Beachside to where it's at right now. And yeah, bro, I mean, it's been a journey. We're about to do 1 year, and we definitely need to do like an anniversary.
Yeah, we gotta run it up.
Yeah.
Is there any question with Sebas alongside like everything that you just said, or
any question?
Or like you just wanted to express how you felt?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to like let the audience know like how kind of like Beachside evolved, and like. Yeah, because we had nothing. Like the service, there was no service department. Like Sebas came in. I remember like not knowing any.
Well,
prices.
Johnny left maybe like a couple of things, no?
Hardly anything, bro. Like there was nothing. And I mean, you remember the day that you went, you couldn't like put the baby carrier because there were no tools.
Yeah.
But just like remember like relying on Sebas on, bro, what are the prices for? Tell me all the prices. Remember the sheet that we made?
Yeah.
Because I knew no prices of like tune-ups, like what to do, how to price them. I just relied on Sebas. And then once I got the hang of it, like I started just pitching in my ideas. But yeah, it's been a journey. I just kind of wanted to share it so they knew like the upbringing of Beachside and how it all started.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I same goes to you guys. Like, I appreciate everything for sure. Like, I don't take stuff for granted. You know, you've helped me move into a different category of life. You know, a better life. You know, and you know, in exchange for everything I could help you guys with. But yeah, Beachside came an extremely long way. It was crazy. But yeah, the motivation was huge, man. It was just like we went in there, we just kicked ass, and it was crazy, man. Like I even had my girlfriend in there at one point,
at the beginning,
just slinging it. Like on the weekend, it would be sometimes it was just us two, and it was insane. Like we had like. Yeah, it was days where like it could run comfortably with 5 people, 4 people, and it was just me and her, and it was insane. Like, but it was crazy, man. Like the tips were huge, the reviews were huge. People were all about it. So yeah, I'm excited to see that summer again. You know, but yeah, like you know, building that service center was definitely key. Like I mean, yeah, to think we were putting like almost 100-pound bikes on this stand that could barely I mean, that thing was bending, man. Like the heaviest bike I could pick up, I was like, well, let's see if the stand could hold it. Like, I'll pick it up and I'll try to get on it. Let's see, you know. But yeah, those were the dog days for sure. Those are the grind. Yeah, a lot changed.
Well, and now moving, you know, fast forward, we had the conversation not too long ago of kind of like, I think Max and I both believe that we want to continue to work together. You know, we made a deal happen where, you know, you bought a car, we loaned you some money, you bought a car. So we're starting to like, you know, form other type of partnerships and trying to see where we can get into. And well, you know where we stand, you know, and I think that you'll be a very important piece to the puzzle and what we're doing, and the people that we started all of this with. We want to continue to work with them. But I don't know, we're kind of like getting there to that 1 hour mark. And if you don't have anything to add, I brought some like rapid fire questions that I want to do with you. But I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I mean, yeah, I think I just want to say that the work that you guys have done has been very, very impressive. And, you know, when I think about people who say they want to do things, they want to make it out, they want to, you know, I'm like, do that shit, you know, like what you guys did. I don't see that capability in a lot of people, you know, that they say they want to start their business and do shit. And I'm like, I just don't see that. Like, I've contemplated, you know, like, you know, and I feel like we've given opportunities to a lot of people, you know. We kind of mentioned veggie, right? We kind of mentioned veggie.
They just don't take it.
And they don't take it, and then let's say they take it, you know, they can't execute. It's like one thing, it's like doing it, and then another thing is like executing and making that successful, right?
It's hard. People don't want to follow through.
Exactly, and so, you know, I was very impressed. Obviously, it's hard for me to sometimes, because I don't make it out there to see everything that you guys are doing and how much is, you know, obviously Isaac keeps me up to date with everything. But, you know, my head's here at Rib, you know, and pushing Rib. And, you know, Rib is, you know, at a level where it has to be maintained so properly. But what you guys have done has been amazing. And I'm so excited to wrap up this year. And then I'm so excited to see, you know, what Beachside does this year, this summer. I'm so excited for the summer as well. We got the mural, the bikes, the vibes are just...
We're already on the come up.
And I know that there's a lot of ideas for Beachside as well. I know you guys at some point wanted to do the tours. But, you know, it all takes time, but it's just nice to the way you guys have grown it already has just been very, very fast.
Thank you, bro.
A lot of people just don't commit, man. You know, like I remember carrying those bikes up and down the stairs when we first opened. I was like, what the hell? Dude, the people at the T-bar would literally, there would literally be 10 e-bikes downstairs that people dropped off, and then like 7 regular bikes, and I have to pick them all up and bring them up. And I was like, dude, like people would not do that shit.
Right.
Like people just wouldn't, and we're already seeing it with like other employees and stuff, like people you've hired, and like right away, you know, and it's just like, man, like that side of me is just like, I'll just get it done.
Yeah. Or people who I didn't hire, because you know you were there when I was trying to do the interviews, and we just didn't see it, and a few people that.
Yeah, like you really need to be a special type of person to work with us, you know. Yep. Like you just need to be able to keep up.
And you guys have only had Josh, right?
Yeah, just Josh.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting, and he stayed, but you know, at Rib we've had like several people, you know, because we've been out here longer, right? But it'll be interesting when you kind of get that. I would really like a girl at Beachside, bro.
Yeah.
Working the front.
The rentals.
That'd be nice.
All right.
Rapid fire.
It would bring in that bread for sure. Those tips would come up, and the interactions would be better, but.
More reviews, hopefully. No, we get good
No,
reviews.
you guys get really good reviews.
All right, before the camera cuts out, I want to do some rapid fire questions, bro, where I have 10
Fire,
questions.
quick.
Yeah, no more than a sentence.
Don't want you to think about it.
Don't think about them too much. All right, I'll start out. What was your first job?
Bike mechanic, yeah, at the co-op.
Who do you text the most?
Who would text the most? Probably you, bro.
That's
like I said, my circle's tiny. Probably you.
That's the. All right.
Because of work and stuff.
Yeah. If you weren't, and he sends me a bunch of memes now. If you weren't working at Beachside right now, what would you be doing?
Damn. Probably trying to work on like my own business or something like that.
What business?
Automotive, like body shop, mechanic, or just looking into that realm.
Yeah. All right. What is your favorite song right now?
Favorite song right now? Andamos mejor.
Is it really that one?
Yes, sir.
Nice, I like that one.
All right. What's the most money you've spent on something, and what was it? So how much and what was it?
Damn.
Is this including everything, or maybe or something that he shouldn't have spent that much? Because I'm sure like his car would be one,
Right.
but it's like, a car is obviously gonna be, the most.
My biggest investment was definitely the car I just purchased this last year at the end, and it was like right around that $10,000 mark cash. So it was definitely a good chunk for me.
What is your last Google research? You can pull up your phone, obviously.
My last Google search.
I think if you go to Google, like, you can see it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, if you're on your last tab.
Best captions for resilience. I was looking for Instagram captions.
There we go.
And I ended up making my own because none of these were
really?
all whack. They're all generic.
Yeah, I always look for those too, and they're all that.
And like
Car shit?
no, like City Coco, like e-bike.
Repairs?
Yeah, just repairs or like Kaboo USA, like that stuff. Just repairs.
Next question. What is your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
Favorite thing to do when I'm not working. Right now it's go to the gym, bro. I'm a gym rat right now. I do enjoy that for sure. Between that and riding my bike, like just getting back to my roots there.
What would you say your purpose is?
Damn, that's a loaded question.
Yeah. That's what came to mind.
Yeah. Honestly, my purpose is to make an impact on people's lives. I know it's like a super generic thing, but like I actually mean it because, like you said, most people are horrible with follow through. I actually mean it. Make a difference in people's lives. Make an impact somehow.
All right. What is the best advice you've ever received?
There's some loaded questions for rapid fire. That doesn't be like, what's your favorite color, your favorite food? Some kindergarten questions. Best advice I've ever gotten. Damn, I might need to circle back on that one.
All right, next.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one, man.
Or maybe
I've gotten a lot of good advice.
Or maybe like the one that like came to your head right away, or one that like you've been feeling recently. But now we can circle back.
One of the best one that I felt recently was along the lines of like, don't worry so much about how you're gonna do it or what it takes to do it. You should just go ahead and just do it. Something like that. Just do it. Yeah. Just get it done.
If you could own, last one. If you could own any car right now, which one would it be and why?
Damn, right now? Like any car?
Any car.
Any car?
Any car.
Unlimited budget.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
He's savoring it, bro.
I know, because there's like so much options there. Probably like a hypercar, just because like the status, bro, is just crazy. Like a Koenigsegg, those are insane. The Swedish company, it's like Bugatti, but just a little bit more premium.
Wow.
Koenigsegg.
Never heard of them, bro.
Yeah, Koenigsegg is they make like 300-mile-an-hour cars. Like they're right there with Bugatti, but they're just a little bit more premium. They're like a little bit more rare, I feel like.
Wow.
So if it was any car in the world, that would be definitely a good one. Amongst other cars, I would want.
And drive it when, like on a Sunday or every day?
The daily.
The daily?
I drive my cars, man. I like to drive my cars for sure.
Yeah.
I would drive it as much as possible. Like even if it's just like to like whatever grocery store or something.
Pulling up at Beachside?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
At least you gotta pull up once.
I mean, it's a very special car. That'd be crazy, but
Yeah. All right, bro. Well, that's all we got. You were actually our first guest on the podcast, so thank you for pulling through. You just got done working at Beachside and came all the way over here, drove. But it was a pleasure, bro, just getting to know more about your story. And again, I'm super thankful, and Max is super thankful for everything that you've done with us and at Beachside. And I think that that we want to continue to work together, and there will be a lot more things that will come up in the future, and I'm sure you will also have opportunities for us. I'm sure. It already happened, but yeah, thank you, bro, and it was a pleasure having you.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it a lot.
For sure, bro. See you guys.
See you guys. Take care.
Let's go, Sebas.
That was a good one. I liked it.
It was good. I feel like I could have done better, but
Oh, I feel that every
an hour
time.
goes by so fast. That was a whole hour?
Yeah, more, no?